stuff. Welcome to the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room podcast. We are here to podcast about anything and everything Star Wars with you. Please visit our website where you can play current and past episodes. That's https://RABR KyleJohansson.us. That's RABR.KyleJohansen.us. On the left-hand side is a navigation menu. You can use this to learn how to load the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room podcast on your Android or Apple phone and tablet. And we have direct links to our podcast on Apple and Google Podcasts. Participate in connecting to our social media, answering questions of the week, or submitting feedback directly from the site. Again, all of these are available at the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room website at RABR.KyleJohansson.us. And now, it's time to talk Star Wars. Yay. I am Kyle John Johansson, and this is Andrew Scott Sutton. Say hello.
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 So today we're going to be reviewing Bad Batch 102 Cut and Run and 103 Replacements. This is our second attempt because the first one didn't go well.
Just someone that push record.
Push record. So we don't have any feedback per se. We have one news article, maybe two. I might have another one that I'm going to talk about, but we'll see here in just a minute. And we're going to discuss two episodes today. Like I said, episode 102 and 103, Cut and Run and the Replacements. And we have two questions of the week this week as well. So one for each episode. So let's actually get ourselves into the news here. It's time for the news. Yeah, here's the news. All right, so the story I've got is about Alan Ladd Jr. He died recently. He was one of the first people to greenlight and agree to produce and go with Star Wars at 20th Century Fox. And he began working with George Lucas in 1973 when George was supposedly a director for American Graffiti. Yeah. So, and this Ladd guy was chairman and CEO of MGM United Artists. He was associated with several of the Star Wars movies, the Alien franchise, Blade Runner, Spaceballs, Thelma and Louise, Chariots of Fire, and Braveheart.
Balls of Space.
Yeah, that's a funny movie. Did you know that little point of trivia about that movie? They went to George Lucas to ask permission to make the movie, and George said he didn't care what they did and what they made fun of, and they could use direct names if they wanted to, but they could not sell any merchandise. That was his one stipulation. They couldn't sell any Spaceballs merchandise.
But I thought they did.
Well, there was a scene in the movie where someone
sold the movie,
but they didn't actually sell any real merchandise. It's all fake merchandise.
Oh, okay.
That scene in the movie is supposedly making fun of the part where George Lucas said they couldn't sell anything.
All right.
Anyway, I can't seem to find this other article. The one article I saw, and I don't have the source because I can't find it right now, but it's talking about how the Mando Verse is gonna, we've got Boba Fett and possibly Ahsoka and maybe something else that's going to be all in the Mando Verse, including the Mandalorian, of course. And they're all going to come to a head eventually on this thing with Thrawn. So supposedly, the whole concept is they're building this universe, and the climax is going to be Thrawn based climax. So possibly in Ahsoka they're going to find him, and then because the timeline meets up. So the Thrawn books all start around this time. And in the beginning, the first book or so, Thrawn has nothing to do with the Empire. He's still out in the Outer Rim area with his people or whatever. The only reason he actually comes this way is because he gets exiled, because he does things that they view as unorthodox, so they exile him. Anyway, my point is they're talking about. See, there's 3 books for Thrawn, and they're talking about that's going to be the next Star Wars trilogy is Thrawn movies. They're going to make 3 Thrawn movies, so they're going to culminate and get all this to a climax, and then these movies are going to come out. And supposedly, they're going to be movies that are released on Disney Plus. They may release them in theaters too, but they're going to be available at the same time on Disney Plus.
All 3.
And, well, not at the same time, but I mean, this is a plan that's grand plan, so it could be a couple of years before the movies even come out. But that's the article I was talking about when I couldn't find.
That sounds pretty interesting.
I think it could be. I mean, you don't know a huge amount about Thrawn except for Rebels.
Yeah.
But I've read 3 books, and they're weird because there's a series of them that are created that aren't canon, and then there's another series that reintroduce Thrawn, and those are canon now. And so I've read part of the Legends stuff, but only one of the new ones. And it, like you said, it's really interesting. It's one of Thrawn's things, and they kind of mention it in Rebels, but his thing is he judges cultures based on their art. So he can tell you what kind of culture they are and what kind of people they are by just looking at the different kinds of art that they have in their in their museums and like at their houses and whatever, stuff like that. Anyway, so that's our 2 news things. The news. And then we have a commercial. And now, a word from our sponsors. Does your bald head take a beating from shaving, the sun, and all of the things Mother Nature throws your way? Do ladies look at your dry, sunburnt head and cringe? Well, guys, there's a new product out there in the head care market that promises to rock your head. I mean dome. Looks soft, clean, and touchable, and it's trending #1 through social media and on YouTube. Introducing Dome Armor. It conditions with moisturizers like coconut oil and shea butter, protects with sunscreen up to SPF 45, and enhances your already sexy dome to an irresistible hands-on experience. Keep your dome safe and protected. Get Dome Armor, now available in fresh bacon scent. Sure to get the ladies to come running in fine stores like Walmart and Lowe's. Oh, and for those still struggling with minor hair loss, try Grow Gain. This product will refresh, revitalize, and regrow hair on your dome. Not Rogaine, but Grow Gain. Anyway, that's our sponsor.
Yeah.
Use
But bacon, wow.
That'll
You're
get the
lucky
ladies
I'm
one.
not there. I like bacon.
Yeah, I bet you do. Me too.
Have to be licking your dome.
Oh, that's kind of gross. I don't want you licking my dome.
Spoiler alert. Danger. You're about to be spoiled. This is your spoiler alert. We're about to talk candidly and explicitly about some TV shows or movies. If you have not watched them, please fast forward to the appropriate section. You will not be warned again because you will be spoiled.
All right. I mean, this has been out for a couple of years now, so we can't be that spoiled. But so we're gonna start with episode 2, Cut and Run. This is starting out with landing on Saleucami.
Every day. Hey.
Hunter exits the cockpit to find Echo watching Omega and Wrecker sleeping. Is it the mailman or something?
Sunday. What is it? Ah. Oh. Looks like Mama's home. That's it.
Now we're in
the
trouble.
grocery store.
All right, so the scene opens up with where Hunter exits the cockpit and finds Echo looking over Omega and Wrecker sleeping from being tired from exploring the entire ship. And he asks what they're going to do with a child. Tech informs them that they're approaching the planet, and the Marauder ascends, scattering a nexu and Nuna birds. Nexu is the big cat-like scary thing.
Yeah.
And they descend the gangplank, and Omega follows. And we see where Omega is actually sees the sunlight and kind of blocks it because she's never seen bright sunlight like that before. And she hesitates a little bit and exits the ship, breathes in the fresh air, and she picks up the dirt and asks what this stuff is. Because she's never She's never had seen dirt before either. Because she, we talked about she lives on basically some buildings that are on platforms above the ocean. And it's because it's in the ocean, it's always raining and there's barely sun all the time. So she's not used to any of this stuff.
It's like a laboratory.
Exactly, a laboratory. And she skips around through the area. There's a forest of towering bith, and they walk through a field of plants with bulbous fruits. And she chases a butterfly as it goes throughout the area. Hunter adds that the person that they're visiting, his specialty is staying off the radar. But they've been friends for many years. Echo asks if they can trust a deserter, prompting Tech to respond that they're deserters as well. And this is where we see Hunter hold up his fist and say, "Stop." He points out a booby trap line near the ground. And then Wrecker says, "Oh, I got this handled." He jumps over the wire, and right behind him is a laser tripwire.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and it trips up some battle droids. Those droids come up, and they're not active droids, but they scare him, and he shoots at them. And, Hunter tells him to stand down. Did I do that? Oh. Hunter tells him to stand down, and then they see a Twi'lek named Saleucami and her clone husband, Cut Loenki. Sue and Cut recognize them and ask them into their home. This is where we find out this is who they were meeting. Hunter and them all enter the home, and Hunter introduces Echo and Omega since they're new to the group. And Cut asks where Crosshair is, and they reply it's complicated. And Cut says that Rex came by and told him that the clone troopers were turning against the Jedi. And that he says that Rex was only here for a day, and I think it's Echo. No, it's probably Tech that says that the inhibitor chips is what's causing the clone army to kill all the Jedi. And then Omega explains the chip is in there to modify their behavior based on certain things that are programmed in it, which is how Order 66 works so well.
Yeah, they didn't know that, and she was like, oh, matter of fact.
Exactly. She knows, and that's probably because she works in the lab and has maybe tried to figure it out too, because she's seen it happen and stuff. So yeah. And then
she's pure though.
Yeah, she is. Cut and Sue's children enter the hut, telling their parents there's ship outside, and then they instantly see their answer because there's people, the guests are there. Wrecker gets excited to see the children. Hunter allows Omega to go play with them outside. They're playing with a ball. They teach Omega how to catch the ball while they're outside playing. Hunter explains that Omega's a clone also, and that the Kamonians did not create without a purpose. And when he asks what Omega's purpose is, Hunter says he doesn't matter. She's just a child, and compared to it's easier. Or Cut remarks that it's easier battling droids than it is raising a child.
Yeah.
And that Hunter has no idea what he's getting into. This is where Hunter says he has no choice because Kamino is no longer safe. Yeah,
she was. I think, personally, I think she's smarter than she leads on to be, and
yeah, she knows a lot more than she's letting everybody know.
Yeah.
And understands a lot more probably.
Yeah.
Because they've been off doing missions, and she's been in the lab finding all this stuff out.
Yeah. But still, I think, she's pretty observant.
She is. She's very good at observing and finding out what's going on and what people are like and stuff from that, which is kind of a trait that Hunter has. And we were talking before. I think we're going to find out that Omega, in the long run, is going to have all the traits of the entire crew in herself. Hunter has his specialty. Wrecker has his. I think we're going to find out eventually, probably in season 2, that she has all the same exact traits just by herself instead of being separated. Let's see what else. So
she's one in all and can switch between them.
One and all. And then let's see. So we see here. Okay, they talk. They're playing ball, and we cut to a scene that's later in the day, and Cut says that they need to go into town so they can get passage on a freighter to get off world. And he explains that Imperials are starting to confiscate ships and impound them in a lot over yonder. And
See, the first time that impounding ship flew over, I thought it was their ship.
yeah, I kind of thought so too. And it was just another ship, I guess. But we find out later that that's what happens to their ship too.
Yeah. But
so they're there.
Tech
they're talking
does that.
to
Tech does that.
yeah, and we're getting to that real quick here. So, so they're in town again. They're talking to a merchant there, and Cuts, kind of whispers off to him and says, "We need to book passage off world." And the merchant responds that he can do that, but they need a chain code to get off world, and he doesn't have that.
Didn't that merchant kind of look like that one club owner from Rogue One?
Maybe a tiny bit.
Flip down glasses or whatever.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I know who you're talking about. She's the one that had Luke Skywalker's lightsaber.
Yeah, and Leia's.
I forget her name too. And they talk about this. They talk to this guy, and Cuts surprised. But then seconds later, a projection comes up where Vice Admiral Rampart announces that all citizens can exchange their currency for Imperial credits. The war is over, and peace will bring prosperity for all. And it also talks about registering for a chain
register
when you get your money exchanged.
Yeah, gotta register.
Right, and we see not long after that projection comes up, a Civian traveler is trying to book his passage off world, and he's arguing with a trooper because the trooper won't let him go through since he doesn't have a chain code. And they argue a little bit, and the Civian walks off. And then Cut sighs and implies that getting off planet was going to be harder than he thought. And so our those two come back, and we cut to a scene back at the Llewellyn farm, and Omega throws the ball past the fence, and she wants to retrieve it, but one of the other kids says not to do that. His name's Jack, I think is what they said, Jack.
Yeah. Don't do that. We'll get it later.
Yeah, Jack is distracted by Shea, which is the other kid, and Omega sees that she's by herself, so she takes the opportunity to sneak under the barbed wire to go get the ball. And Shea tells the brother to go pack and protest. And they soon realize that Omega is no longer around. And we cut to where Omega has retrieved the ball outside of the fence, past some field of those bulb-like plants. And Shea calls out, warning Omega not to move, and we see one of those big next to cat things behind her, making all kinds of noise.
Snack time.
Exactly, and we hear Tech inside the hut talking that all transport is restricted without a chain code. Sue warns that Cut cannot sign up for one because the Imperial authorities will discover that he's a deserter. And the next shuttle leaves for off-world in a couple hours. And this is where Shea interrupts, jumps into the hut, and says, "Hey, Omega's outside the perimeter. Come quick. And everybody goes outside. And Sue climbs up on the roof with her rifle. And we see a terrified Omega and the nexu getting closer and closer to her. Omega turns and runs, and the nexu jumps at her, but Sue begins shooting at the creature, wounding it once and then twice. And the creature, Hunter, goes out also and kind of forces his knife at the creature. And between the shooting and the knife, they escape back into the protected area of the farm. And that's where we see Hunter kind of scold Omega, saying, "Hey, what are you doing outside the fence, you crazy little girl? You," something like that. She could have been killed.
Watch out for yourself.
Yeah, and Cut jumps in and says, "Hey, you have to go easy on her. You have to remember she's not a soldier."
Child.
And Cut bends and picks up and checks on Omega and hugs her and says he's sorry and everything, and carries her inside. And Wrecker asks if she's okay. Tech points out that it could have been a lot worse. Hunter then asks Tech if he has the ability to falsify chain codes for the Lawquanes to get off world. And Tech says he can do it, but he needs the little card to save the actual chain code onto. And they're watching the sunset. We see Omega, still a little upset. Meanwhile, Sue walks out of the house to find Hunter watching the forest and asks if she needs another set of eyes to watch. And he praises her marksmanship because she apparently is a long shot kind of shooter, pretty good at it. And she adds that protecting children is what they do as parents. That's their only real job. And he sees Cut, and Hunter asks where Omega is, and Cut says that she wanted to stay on the ship. And Hunter is talking about how she's not a soldier, and they suggest some time. Cut and Sue want to bring. Hunter tells Cut and Sue that he wants them to bring Omega with them when they leave off-world. He believes that they can provide something that he can't. And Sue asks, is that what he really wants? And Hunter replies that that's what she really needs. So he's willing to protect her by giving her a family that she doesn't really have and can't really have with the Bad Batch. And that's where we immediately
hadn't he already said back in a previous thing that they were a team and they'd never be separated?
I think that's what happens later on at the end of the show.
Okay.
When they tell her that she's staying now or whatever. I think that's what happens because of everything that we see coming here in just a few minutes in this part of the show. Because we cut to a scene where they're back on the Marauder, and Echo and Tech are talking, and they're talking about how they're going to accomplish their task and everything. And Tech talks about how ingenious it is to create a database to identify everyone in the galaxy. And Tech says he already has a plan to get in to the controlled area of the spaceport and get those cards. he says the Imperials are also tagging ships, and Echo asks Tech if the plan is to call the Imperial authorities and get them impound their ship. And Tech affirms that and says that that's pretty risky. And then we see that Omega is listening in the gunner seat. And back on the ground, Hunter learns the news that Omega's on the ship, and he warns Tech that she's on there because they don't realize she's there. And then they see her in the cockpit, and we see a scene where the ship is being transported away. They've already called it in, and the ship is being taken away. And they end up at the spaceport impound lot. And we see them watching a trooper with a tablet in front of the security guard shack, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And they apply some magnetic clamps to their ship so the ship can't leave. Shortly after, Tech and Echo come out of the overhead compartment and asks Omega how she can help, and he thinks that they can handle it, and they want her to kind of stay because it's too risky. And he tells her, that the security booth is where the cards are. So Echo exits the Marauder, avoiding some troopers. After the guard exits, Echo enters, and he inserts his little, his arm to download the information he needs. And Tech tells him they are safe in the kiosk, but they can't seem to find the cards to download them on. And we see Hunter and the Lawquanes entering the spaceport, getting ready to go off world. They still need the chain codes, of course, and Tech contacts them and informs them that they're there, and they can't find the chain code cards. And that's when we see Cut tells them that it's got to be someplace inside of a safe somewhere that's locked up. As the Lawquanes and Hunter wait in their queue to board the ship leaving. And this is where we see that Echo and Tech find the cards and grab the cards and come back to the ship. And Tech and Echo are in there kind of basically programming the cards. And one of them looks out the window and sees a bunch of troopers heading towards them, and they don't want to get caught with the codes. So Echo starts firing towards the Imperial troopers. And he discovers that Omega and the discs are now missing. They're gone. And they look through the window, and then they see Omega outside sneaking through the spaceport with the discs. And Echo doesn't have an idea about what the plan is anymore.
She grabs him, doesn't she?
Yeah, she grabs him, and she's outside with him. And that's when we cut back to Hunter and the Lawquanes in the queue still. We see a trooper walk by, reminding them to have their chain codes ready. And Tech tells Hunter that Omega is going to pass the chain codes. And Hunter does not agree with that, but Tech basically says they don't have a choice. She's already on the way. And we see Wrecker run off to find Omega to make sure she's safe. And Echo is outside now trying to disable the clamp on the ship. And a clone trooper comes up on him, and he tries to convince the trooper that he's a maintenance technician. And the trooper's about to report him, so Tech stuns him. And we see that Omega bumps into a droid, and the droid starts to set off an alarm. And that's
like an R2 unit.
Yeah, it's a different type, though. I think it says it's an R5. Yeah, it's an R series astromech. And at this point, this is where Wrecker finds her, and he knocks the droid down and picks her up and meets Tech and Echo at the ship. And Wrecker sends Omega on to meet the others at the queue they're in to board the ship. Omega climbs over a barrier where 3 clone troopers demand to see Wrecker's chain code. And this is the point where Wrecker puts up his hand and says, "Oh, it's over here." And he says, "No, it's over here." And then he clunks their 3 heads together, which is, like you said, it was a Three Stooges moment there.
Stooges moment, yeah, that was great.
Yeah, they knock them all 3 out, which is kind of weird. I've always wondered how that works because of those helmets, but whatever. The troopers begin inspecting the person in front of them, and just in time, Omega arrives with the chain codes. And Omega notices that Tech made 5 chain codes instead of 4. And Cut is surprised that Hunter did not tell her yet. So Cut and the family move on, and Hunter tells Omega that she is leaving with Cut and Sue. Omega at this point is shocked and tells Hunter that Hunter tells her that she needs a family, and the Winkies are good people that will provide her what she deserves. And Omega says she wants to stay.
She wants to stay with the crew.
And Hunter tells her she has to go. It's for her own good. And she gets back in line with the Winkies, but kind of, is wondering what the heck's going on. They're at the kiosk, and they hand off the chain codes. The trooper scans them all, and there's a little tense moment there. And we're back at the Marauder then, because they've obviously gotten through. Echo works on deactivating the magnetic clip, and after a tense moment, a clone trooper manning the security kiosk approves the Winkies chain codes and allows them to enter the spaceport. Omega looks back at Hunter, and Tech informs Hunter that they've outlasted their welcome. They need to be prepared to leave.
We gotta go.
And this is where we see Sue touches Omega's shoulder and asks her if she's ready. And Omega is still not decided what she wants to do. We see
decided.
Yeah, she's decided. She just doesn't know how she's going to do it. Wrecker throws a crate at a clone trooper, and Hunter begins fighting the troopers off as well, that are attacking Echo and Tech at the ship. Echo informs Hunter that the magnetic clamp system is not responding, and we see Wrecker make it to the ship and uses his brute force to pull the clamp off. They all board the Marauder, and Wrecker asks where Omega is. Before anybody can explain where she is, they hear Omega telling them to wait for her. Wait for me. And she runs toward them, but a clone trooper grabs her by the ankles before she can get there. And Hunter shoots the trooper.
Yep.
We see Cut and Sue in the clan board the shuttle, and the shuttle takes off. Before they board, though, they see a trooper that kind of is questioning them. Says, "Hey, you look familiar." And the trooper gets distracted by the battle that's going on between our Bad Batch, and runs off and lets Cut and Sue actually board the ship. We see the shuttle take off, and the Marauder is not far behind, leaving Sukamai. It flies itself into space. And we come here to
jump the light speed, and then all of a sudden he's like,
yeah.
Oh.
This is where we come to the last scene that we were kind of talking about, where they're inside the cockpit, and Wrecker's using the droid to do the bicep lifts with it. And Omega sits down and has a heart-to-heart with Hunter about her being with them. And this is where Hunter says that he did not need to get rid of her. And she reminds Hunter that she left Kamino with them on purpose. And this is where Hunter admits he has a lot to learn. And they sit. The show credits run as Omega and Hunter sit across the table from each other, talking and being all soft and cuddly. So that was that episode. That was basically a mission to get the Lawquanes off the planet.
Yeah. I just wonder where they went, if we're going to hook up with them again, and
Yep, and that's a good question, because that's one of our questions of the week. The question is will we see the Lawquanes again? And knowing that our team went to see them almost immediately after they left the Kamino planet, I would say that we probably are going to see them again. I think we, not to spoil anybody, but I think we know from this season here that we don't see them again this season, but
no,
I'd be willing to bet that we see them again soon. And then we go let's run a Wands commercial.
We are proud to welcome our latest sponsor, Wands Cantina, where every first week of the month on the standard galactic calendar, we celebrate what the ancients call Cinco de Mayo. Come join us at Wands with food, mariachi music, and 34 flavors of margaritas. That's Wands Cantina, right next to the Hangar 94 of Mos Eisley Spaceport. On day 2 of the week is Taco Tuesday. All tacos are half a credit each and enjoyed with our house margaritas. Juan's Cantina also serves the galactic
nacho cheese.
Camarones Azul Cerveza, imported directly from Queso. Thank you again for our latest sponsor, Juan's Cantina.
Cerveza. Yeah. All right, so that's Juan's Cantina. Right next to the hangar that Han Solo's ship was parked when Luke and
the Millennium.
Kenobi were leaving the planet.
Your ship, you mean? Your ship. Where you parked your ship.
Yeah, my ship.
That you're on.
Exactly. I'm flying through the galaxy on the and so the next episode that we're reviewing today is episode 3, called The Replacements. and we join our crew on the Marauder, going through hyperspace, and it's we see Omega is reading a tablet while leaning against the Gonki droid.
Robot.
And Hunter enters and says it's chow time, and he hands her a ration bar. And we see Wrecker get excited, and he slides down and says, "About time." Grabs his ration bar and chows it down instantly and asks for another. And Hunter says that the rations are low, so that he doesn't get another one. This is where we see Omega offer hers. And as Wrecker reaches for it, Hunter reminds Wrecker that she doesn't even have a place to sleep on the ship.
Yeah.
You're going to take her food too. So Wrecker lets her keep the ration bar. And that's when we see the lights flicker.
Oh no.
And Hunter yells at Echo, and he thought that they had fixed this problem. And Tech explains the ship got hit pretty hard when they were leaving by all the fire from the troopers. And Echo points out that he is willing to help. And Tech is talking about building a scanner to test the functionality of their inhibitor chips.
Yeah.
To figure out why theirs fail. Tech says no critical systems on the ship have been compromised, and the ship shudders and drops out of hyperspace. Echo reports that a power capacitor is blown and they need to land immediately. And this is the scene where we see the ship preparing to land, and they prepare for a crash landing because they don't have very much power. Wrecker straps Omega in. This is, her first crash landing, so she has no idea what's going on and is scared. Echo reports that there's a storm, and it's getting worse. And he announces they need to replace the power
core or whatever.
Capacitor before they leave.
Capacitor.
And he sees that they have a spare one in stock already on the ship. So they look around for it, and during that process, they find Crosshair's weapons kit. And Wrecker sighs and says he admits that he misses Crosshair. And Echo reminds him that Crosshair shot him. And Tech responds that Crosshair's betrayal could be due to his inhibitor chip. And Hunter says, stop bickering and go fix the ship. And then we cut to a scene that's back on Kamino. This scene's called Special Forces. And we see CT-9904, which is Crosshair, undergoing a medical scan. And he is informed that all his vitals are at optimal levels. Tarkin and Nala Se are watching, and Nala Se reviews the notes on the procedure and replies that and Tarkin replies that he hopes that he stays that way. And then we see Vice Admiral Rampart enter the room, and Tarkin congratulates him on the chain code initiative. It's been successful at allowing them to track people. And he asks about the Project War Mantle, and Rampart confirms that the recruits are ready to begin training under their new commander. Rampart tells Harkin his vision for a largely enlisted army and assures that Kamino. Nalase assures him that Kamino can provide enough clones for such a force. Wow, I sneezed. But Rampart insists the combination of recruits trained by clones is optimal for strategy and one that Tarkin seems to support. And we have Rampart introduce Tarkin's to the Empire's first elite squad. And then we cut back to the moon that the Marauder has landed on. Echo and Tech leave the ship to replace the capacitor. And Echo investigates a snarling sound off in the distance. He finds some scratches in the ship, and they go back on board. And Tech confirms that other systems are failing, and we see outside a creature crawl up and pull the capacitor back out.
And takes
and it turns everything inside into darkness because they have no power anymore. And we see Omega looks out the window and sees the creature run across the viewport holding the capacitor. And Tech identifies the creature as an Ordo moon dragon, which feeds on pure energy. And he has stolen the part because of the massive charge it holds. Hunter orders Tech and Echo to get the other systems online while he retrieves the capacitor. He also tells Wrecker, who is injured, to stay behind, and Omega offers to go with Hunter, but he refuses to let her go, saying that this is going to be dangerous. She asks if she is part of the squad, and he relents and tells her to stay close as they both embark on their journey outside. Then we go back to Kamino, and the four members of the elite squad undergo medical checks, and one of the troopers pushes off the droid and says that he doesn't need to be tested. And another trooper asks why they're fighting, because the war is over. And he replies that ES1 replies that food and roof over his head is more than the Republic ever did give him.
Yeah.
So he's getting more than he got with the old guys. Then we see Tarkin and Rampart and Prime Minister Lama Su watching the squad. Lama Su says enlisted recruits can never match the effectiveness of clones, but Rampart disagrees, replying that skills can be taught and that loyalty of those who are willing to enlist is where the values lie. Tarkin calls a test for the crew, and he asks for the squad to be deployed to Alderaan to locate and wipe out Saw Gerrera's camp that Clone Force 99 did not do. Lama Su leaves the room with concern on her face. And then we go back to the moon. We see Hunter and Omega tracking the dragon on the moon, and we see Hunter kneel down and examine some dust, and then Omega mimics him. And we see Omega pretty much mimicking everything that Hunter does, trying to learn how he does what he does. And Hunter kind of tells him that that's his enhanced skill is tracking. And Wrecker and Tech have their own skills too. Omega adds Crosshair also, and she tells him that they shouldn't be mad at Crosshair because he can't help it. That's the way he's been conditioned. And Hunter says he's angry with himself instead because he left someone behind from the team. And we cut back to the elite squad. They're on their way to Onderon.
It's all Guerrera.
Yeah. The one of the troopers they are calling ESO1 kind of questions Crosshair why he's the leader of the troop. And talks about him being replaced. Once on site, Guerrera's team quickly overwhelms the squad of troopers. As we see another shuttle take off.
They start questioning the people left behind.
Yeah, and the squad approaches the survivors, and Crosshair asks the remaining soldier where Guerrera is, and she tells him that she will never tell him that answer. And that's when we see Crosshair kill her while she's talking.
Yeah, and then that.
Yeah.
Then
he approaches the refugees now and asks them if they know anything. And they just say they were promised passage off world. And Crosshair raises his weapon, saying they're no use to the Empire. And one of the elite squad troopers intervenes and says that Guerrera's fighters are dead and they should just bring the civilians in. And Crosshair argues that that's not their orders. And the clone trooper or the elite trooper says that their orders are wrong and the squad won't obey them as they're soldiers and not an execution squad.
Yeah.
And
so Crosshair
we
says,
see,
bye-bye.
Yeah, we see him arguing a little bit more with Crosshair, and Crosshair asks him if he knows why they put him in charge, and he says it's because he's willing to do what needs to be done, and he kills him, just like you said.
Yep.
And he tells the rest of the squad that good soldiers follow orders.
Follow orders, yeah, that's it.
He orders the rest of the squad to execute the rest of the civilians. And then we cut back to the moon again.
Yeah.
Hunter and Omega locate the capacitor, and as Hunter goes to retrieve it, the dragon knocks him over and runs away with the part again. Hunter turns, gasping for air, as his mask has fallen off, and Omega finds his mask and puts it back on, but Hunter is already unconscious, and he's passed out. And Omega tries to call for help, but the storm is not allowing her comm signal to go through. And Omega sees the dragon go down a burrow. And Omega decides that she's going to take a deep breath, grabs Hunter's pistol and flashlight, and goes down the burrow to find the dragon. As she makes her way through, she finds the capacitor and talks about how lucky she was. And just as she turns to leave, the dragon's right there behind her. And the creature roars. And Omega lifts up Hunter's blaster.
Yeah.
And just
Doesn't
at that
she
moment,
throw the flashlight though?
Yeah, she throws it at him here. Just as Hunter wakes up and is calling for her on the surface. And that's when she throws the flashlight, because it distracts the dragon. The dragon takes the flashlight and starts to absorb the energy off the flashlight, giving Omega enough time to escape up the hole and find Hunter right there. And she's excited and tells Hunter that she's excited that she was able to complete the mission without using the blaster.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to the elite squad again. they have come back from their mission to Kamino, and
Missing
uh,
one
yeah,
soldier.
Tarkin notices they're missing one, and Crosshair reports that Guerrera has moved on, but the rest of the camp was dealt with. And Tarkin is very impressed with Crosshair. Uh, Tarkin tells Rampart that the clone program is an expensive relic of the past, but that it will continue to have its place until the right time. And Rampart agrees, and Tarkin leaves everything in Rampart's hands. Somewhere else in the city, there's a meeting between Lama Su and Nala Se talking about Rampart's program. And we see Lama Su is worried that the clone program is going to become obsolete. And Nala Se also warns that the genetic material from Jango Fett is degrading, and they will not be able to use it for very much longer. And that's when we see Lama Su reply that they must move on to the next phase, the development of a superior clone, which will secure Kamino's relationship with the Empire. And Nala Se says they will need a new genetic source, and that the clones they need will not return willingly. Lama Su replies that they're Kamino property, and that's the only thing they need. And we see Crosshair with the squad. They return back to the old barracks of Clone Force 99, and the elite squad begins to take up bunk in their leftover bunks that's not Crosshair's, while Crosshair sits in his bunk and kind of...
He sits on his, doesn't he? Doesn't it look like he has afterthoughts, or...
He's evaluating something, that's for sure. We don't know really what it is, but and then we cut back to the Bad Batch on the moon, and their ship is repaired, and we see Wrecker tells Omega, "Hey, I've got a surprise for you. Close your eyes." And he reveals the refurbished gunport room has been made into her room, and she jumps up in there with the Tuca doll Lola, and takes in the space.
She's all happy about it, and now she's a part of the team.
She's now in Hunter's. This is when Hunter tells her that she's now part of the squad. So that's when the credits roll.
Yeah. I think I don't know what the
elite squad
clone makers, I don't...
the Kamonians or whatever.
Yeah, what they have up their sleeves, I can't remember.
Lama Se.
Yeah,
I don't know what that is, and that's our question of the week for that episode is, what is the next phase of the Kamino clone project? And we kind of talked about this before when we forgot to record, but
do they have another place they can go? Do they have to be on a water planet?
I mean, probably not. They can probably take their research wherever they need to go, right?
I don't know.
It's just secluded and stuff, so people don't, bug them or whatever, I guess. But we were kind of talking about how possibly clones like our Clone Force 99 and Omega is the next phase, right? Troopers maybe with specialties, or maybe like we were talking about Omega, where it's a trooper that has all the specialties built in, like we think Omega might have.
Yeah.
And that's
heck, I think
probably
Omega
the reason why
Omega might have life force.
Yeah, she might be able to be one with the Force. We don't know. We don't know yet. She hasn't displayed any of that. And like I was saying, that's one of the things that the Kaminoans experimented with when they were first making the clones that became our clone fighters for the Clone Wars is they were trying to infuse force sensitivity into their clones, and they were never able to. They kept on experimenting, and maybe we're kind of wondering if Omega is the result of that experimenting. So hopefully you guys can kind of give your opinions too. We've got multiple places you can
There's all
go
kind
to our
of
polls and
tie-in.
vote on them, but there's a place there for
There's all
comments.
kinds of tie-in, Kyle, with that. I was just thinking about it since we didn't record that. To Rogue One.
Yep.
How she was a child prodigy. Seemed to be.
Yeah, kind of.
It's always seemed to be the children.
Yeah. Well, they always seem to start out early with them, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. It's always weird. It's always been weird to me that the Jedi recruit their recruits as kids. That sounds kind of weird to me. It's just, why does it matter? And I think that's why, they don't really talking about it right now. But in Legends, Luke Skywalker, when he starts his new Jedi Order, is what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
He allows his recruits to have attachments. He allows them to, have relationships.
Okay.
And I think honestly, that's what's happening with Grogu is he's
Yeah.
allowing them to have a relationship, but Grogu is probably going to come back and get trained.
That's the same thing Luke did.
Exactly, and that's why he believes that way. And he also does not necessarily believe that they have to be young kids either.
No.
And again, in the Legends, he recruits people that are, some of them are older, some of them are young kids, some of them are let's say 20, 30 years old when he recruits them. He doesn't care what the age is because he knows that he learned how to do all that stuff when he was, I think in the show, the movie, he was like 16 or whatever when Obi-Wan Kenobi and him left Tatooine. He knows that it can be done even if you're not, an infant, let's say, or a child. And he's going to have to do that anyway because, his choices are limited now since most of the Jedi are gone. All right, so that's our entire show. We've gone through both episodes. I wanted to remind everybody again with the questions of the week. You can put comments in there after you've answered the question. You can go to our website and there is a comments feedback little section where you can fill out a form. We are on YouTube. This video that of Scott sleeping most of the time is going to be up on YouTube later on.
Ha ha ha.
And
my eyes are giving me trouble.
And there are comments that you can put on YouTube. And I believe there's a couple other places that you can put comments in. We will be watching all of those areas. So, please send your feedback, leave comments, whatever you need to do. We'd love to discuss them with you. Anything else, Scott?
No, I just gotta go put my eye drops in.
All right, let me hit the... Thank you for listening to the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room podcast. Please visit our website where you can play current and past episodes. That's https://RABR KyleJohansson.us. That's RABR.KILEJOHANSEN.US. On the left-hand side is a navigation menu. You can use this to learn how to load the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room podcast on your Android or Apple phone and tablet. And we have direct links to our podcast on Apple and Google Podcasts. Please participate by connecting to our social media, answering questions of the week, or submitting feedback directly from the site. Again, all of these are available at the Rebel Alliance Briefing Room website at rabr.kailejahn.us. This podcast in no way is approved, sponsored, or owned by Lucasfilms Ltd., Disney, Disney Plus, or any of its subsidiaries. All opinions are solely owned by Kyle and or Scott, and in no way express the views or opinions of their past or present employers. Views and opinions are not supported or restricted by Lucasfilms Ltd., Disney, Disney Plus, or any of its subsidiaries. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this podcast and its affiliate sites without consent of Super Duper Podcast Network and its host is prohibited. I am Kyle John Hansen, and this is Andrew Scott Sutton. Say goodbye now.
Goodbye
Hey
now.
man, bye bye now. Behave.
Yeah.